Welcome back to Seedgate class. There was an article in Times of India about does marriage mean freedom for young women? It says marriage is traditionally seen as a means of getting trapped, with many complaining about the loss of freedom. Whenever it comes to marriage, all the ideas of women empowerment take a back seat, and a woman's worth is defined by her sacrifices and tolerance. As a married woman, it becomes more important for her to keep her husband happy than value her well-being. Students, we are going to continue the second chapter, The Story of an Hour, 7th paragraph onwards, in page number 57 in your textbook. Let's begin the story. She sat with her head thrown back upon the cushion of the chair, quite motionless, except when a sob came up into her throat and shook her as a child who has cried itself to sleep continues to sob in its dreams. She was young, with a fair, calm face, whose lines bespoke repression and even a certain strength. Bespoke means spoke out. Repression means act of not allowing feeling to be expressed. But now there was a dull stare in her eyes, whose gaze was fixed away off yonder on one of those patches of blue sky. It was not a glance of reflection, but rather indicated a suspension of intelligent thought. Yonder means over there. Lucy sat with her head thrown back upon the cushion of armchair. She was quite motionless. Sometimes she started to weep. She shook her as a child who has cried itself to sleep continues to sob in its dreams. She was young, with a fair and calm face, but we can't predict the feeling to be expressed on her face. But her eyes were dull. She looked on one of those patches of blue sky. It indicated a suspension of intelligent thought. From this, we can assume that she was thinking very seriously about her life. There was something coming to her and she was waiting for it fearfully. What was it? She did not know. It was too subtle and elusive to name. Elusive means hard to understand. But she felt it creeping out of the sky, reaching towards her through the sounds, the scents, the color that filled the air. Now her bosom rose and fell tumultuously. Bosom means person's chest. Tumultuously means loudly. She was beginning to recognize this thing that was approaching to possess her, and she was striving to beat it back with her will, as powerless as her two white slender hands would have been. Striving here means make great effort. slender, thin in an attractive way. We can see that Lucy was waiting for something fearfully. At first, she can't give a name for it. Anyway, she was in tension. Her heartbeat started to beat loudly. She already understood some serious thought that was chasing her, relating her life. She started to block that thought. But she was powerless in front of that thought. When she abandoned herself, a little whispered word escaped her slightly parted lips. Abandoned means rejected. She said it over and over under her breath. Free, free, free. The vacant stare and the look of terror that had followed it went from her eyes. They stayed keen and bright. Her pulses beat fast and the coursing blood warmed and relaxed every inch of her body. Coursing means move without obstruction. She did not stop to ask if were or were not a monstrous joy that held her. A clear and exalted perception enabled her to dismiss the suggestion as trivial. Trivial means not important. As Lucy tries to avoid this vague approaching feeling, she becomes increasingly physically excited and upset. Slowly she begins to grasp the feeling that so overtakes her, and she redoubles her efforts to keep it away. Despite her resolve or find a solution, though she suddenly gives herself over to the disturbing feeling. In an unguarded moment, her lips part and a word escapes her mouth, and then she repeats it over and over. Free, free, free. In this moment, Lucy once again experiences the kind of physical and emotional excitement that she is supposed to avoid because of her heart condition. Yet again, she disregards the limitations placed upon her by her own body and by society, finally giving herself over to the growing sense of freedom and represented by the emergence of spring outside the window. Now Lucy's heart pulses faster and her blood rushes through her body. But this only relaxes her and turns her fearful state into one of enlivened vigor. Here we can see that she was in a monstrous joy. Have you noticed the word monstrous joy? It is showing the extent of joy. So here Kate Chopin has used the figure of speech oxymoron. She knew that she would weep again when she saw the kind, tender hands folded in death. She is speaking about her husband's death. The face that had never looked save with love upon her, fixed and grey and dead. But she saw beyond the bitter moment a long procession of years to come that would belong to her absolutely. And she opened and spread her arms out to them in welcome. There would be no one to live for her during those coming years. She would live for herself. There would be no powerful will bending hers in that blind persistence with which men and women believe they have a right to impose a private will upon a fellow creature. Impose means force to accept. A kind intention or a cruel intention made the act seem no less a crime as she looked upon it in that brief moment of illumination. Illumination means understanding. She pays no attention to whether or not the joy she feels about Brindley's death is terrible or unkind. Although she knows that she will inevitably experience grief when she sees his dead body and his fixed and grey face that had always looked at her with love. The prospect seems a small price to pay for the life of freedom and independence that now stretches out before her. A life in which she can make her own choices and live for herself for the first time. Lucy's fast heartbeat no longer seems an antagonistic force. Her physical excitement has now been reframed as an indication of her happiness regarding her new independent life. That she will regret seeing her husband's dead body emphasizes the fact that she never disliked Brindley as a person. She holds no grudge against him, as he had always been kind and loving to her. Her joy, then, is the result of the life ahead of her that will be full of freedom and independence. And yet she had loved him sometimes. Often she had not. What did it matter? What could love, the unsolved mystery, count for in face of this possession of self-assertion which she suddenly recognized as the strongest impulse of her being? Self-assertion means act of expressing your rights in a confident way. Impulse means sudden strong desire to do something. Free, body and soul free, she kept whispering. Whispering means speak in a low voice. Lucy realizes that she will no longer be subjected to the powerful rules and norms of marriage, which cause humans to blindly and stubbornly impose themselves on one another. Although she had sometimes loved Brindley and sometimes had not, she feels relieved to finally be in possession of an intense sense of self-assertion, which she recognizes as the strongest impulse of her being. Deciding that the value of love and marriage counts for very little when compared to her freedom of will, she ecstatically whispers, free, body and soul free. Ecstatically means with a sudden emotion. Josephine was kneeling before the closed door, with her lips to the keyhole, imploring for admission. Imploring means make a serious request. Lucy, open the door. I beg, open the door. You will make yourself ill. What are you doing, Lucy? For heaven's sake, open the door. Go away. I am not making myself ill. No, she was drinking in a very elixir of life through that open window. Elixir means magical liquid. In Malayalam, Amridam. Amrita. Her fancy was running right along those days ahead of her. Spring days and summer days and all sorts of days that would be her own. She breathed a quick prayer that life might be long. It was only yesterday she had thought with a shudder that life might be long. In the 19th century, women were expected to live under the financial and social control of their husbands. In this moment, Lucy recognizes the rare opportunity she now has to escape this patriarchal dynamic. The fact that she identifies her freedom of will as strong, the strongest impulse of her being, once more challenges the previously established notion that she is weak. Whereas before, under marriage's oppressive control, she was viewed as dependent on others. Now her self-assertion renders her both physically and emotionally free, as evidenced by her exclamation, "Body and soul free." Meanwhile, worried that Lucy will make herself sick by staying alone in her bedroom, her sister Josephine kneels outside the room and begs her sister through the keyhole to open the door. Lucy tells Josephine to go away and that she is not making herself ill. She keeps her joy to herself and reveals in the idea that her new life, which will be full of freedom, is totally and completely her own. She says a short prayer that her life will be long and knows that it was just the day before when she wished it would be short. She arose at length and opened the door to her sister's importunities. There was a feverish triumph in her eyes, and she carried herself unwittingly like a goddess of victory. She clasped her sister's waist, and together they descended the stairs. Descended means go down. Richards stood waiting for them at the bottom. Someone was opening the front door with a latchkey. Key for opening an outside door. It was Brindley Mallard, who entered a little travel-stained, composedly carrying his grist sack and an umbrella. Grist sack means suitcase. He had been far from the scene of accident and did not even know there had been one. He stood amazed at Josephine's piercing cry, at Richard's quick motion to screen him from the view of his wife. But Richards was too late. When the doctor came, they said she had died of heart disease, of joy that kills. In keeping with the 19th century, society's suppressing nature, well-intended attempts to protect Lucy end up further invading her personal freedom and independence. Here, Josephine's overprotective worry risks interfering with Lucy's emotional process, ultimately demonstrating to readers that the people around Lucy are more concerned about controlling her emotional response than with helping her. Eventually, Lucy rises from her chair and opens the door, just as Josephine begs her to. Lucy's eyes are alight with triumph, and without realizing it, she carries herself like a kind of goddess. She embraces her sister. Lucy's posture and gaze symbolize confidence and power despite her sister's overprotective intrusion and expectation that she remain passive and weak. By embracing her sister, she proves once again that she holds no grudges against those who ultimately oppress her. Together, the two sisters descend the stairs, where Richard stands waiting at the bottom. As they do so, they hear the sound of a key opening the front door. Without warning, Bentley Mallard appears in the door frame, utterly unaware of any train accident. He had been far from the scene of the tragedy, so he was safe. Calmly standing at the bottom of the stairs, he is shocked by Lucy's deafening scream and by Richard's useless attempt to protect him from his wife's view. When doctors later examine Lucy's body, they pronounce that she died because of her weak heart, of joy that kills. Mrs. Mallard was died because of overjoy. She was extremely happy to see her husband back. Brindley is completely forgotten to the process of self-discovery Lucy has undergone. Though it is not his fault, his presence gives Lucy the message that her freedom could never be a reality. In a way, Lucy's death, then it is the only way for her to gain independence. In light of the fact that her husband is still alive. Of course, her death ironically strengthens the idea that she is weak, and the doctor's announcement that she died of a joy that kills furthers this irony, for they are not entirely wrong. Joy does, in fact, play a role in her death. She dies not because she regains joy, but because she suddenly loses it after having only briefly tasted it. I hope all of you have enjoyed the story and understand the importance of freedom in everyone's life. I have already told you Kate Chopin has used so many symbols in this story. At first, we are going through the two main symbols and the rest of them. First one is heart trouble. The heart trouble that afflicts Lucy is both a physical and symbolic disease that represents her ambivalence toward her marriage and unhappiness with her lack of freedom. The fact that Lucy has heart trouble is the first thing we learn about her. And this heart trouble is what seems to make the announcement of Bentley's death so threatening. A person with a weak heart, after all, would not deal well with such news. When Lucy reflects on her new independence, her heart races, pumping blood through her veins. When she dies at the end of the story, the diagnosis of heart disease seems appropriate because the shock of seeing Bentley was surely enough to kill her. But the doctor's conclusion that she had died of overwhelming joy is ironic because it had been the loss of joy that had actually killed her. Indeed, Lucy seems to have died of a broken heart caused by the sudden loss of her much loved independence. Next symbol is the open window. The open window from which Lucy gazes for much of the story represents the freedom and opportunities that await her after her husband has died. From the window, Lucy sees blue sky, fluffy clouds, and treetops. She hears people and birds singing and smells a coming rainstorm. Everything that she experiences through her senses suggests joy and spring. It was a new life. And when she ponders or thinks about the sky, she feels the first hints of elation. Elation means great happiness. Once she fully indulges in this excitement, she feels that the open window is providing her with life itself. The open window provides a clear, bright view into the distance and Lucy's own bright future, which is now unobstructed by the demands of another person. It is therefore no coincidence that when Lucy turns from the window and the view, she quickly loses her freedom as well. Then we can go through the overall symbols she used throughout the story. The story of an hour is meant to symbolize the freedom and happiness that Lucy Mallard has longed for throughout her marriage, perhaps even throughout her entire life. Mrs. Mallard's heart trouble is a symbol of the way in which she feels crushed and imprisoned by her marriage. Her heart trouble is not just physical, it is also psychological in nature. The doors are another symbols in the story. Mrs. Mallard's bedroom, the open window, and the front door of her house each represent a part of what happens to Mrs. Mallard during this eventful story of an hour. The new spring life symbolizes of her new life, free from her husband. The open square she sees outside her window is a symbol of freedom. The hint of the sound of a man singing represents happiness that Lucy Mallard seems to have been deprived of at the very least in her marriage. Last one, the sparrows that Mrs. Mallard hears in the trees are also symbols of the freedom she has long desired. Kate Chopin has also used many themes throughout the story. Self-identity, class relations, feminine individuality, relationships between men and women, the role of women in married life are some of the themes we can see throughout the story. Kate Chopin has also used literary devices throughout the story. First one is simile. She sat with her head thrown back upon the cushion of the chair, quite motionless, except when a sob came up into her throat and shook her, as a child who has cried itself to sleep continues to sob in its dreams. The use of the word as in this quote to identify the simile compares the way Mrs. Mallard is sitting and sobbing intermittently to a child sleeping. Irony. According to the doctor, Lucy has died of heart disease, of the joy that kills. The doctor has assumed that Lucy's heart could not withstand the excitement of learning that her husband was alive. However, Lucy is grief-stricken to learn that he is alive because she has lost her freedom. This reveals how confined women often felt in society and in their marriages during this time period. The brief time Lucy relishes her future opportunities is enough to make her lose her will to live. Next one is foreshadowing. It is the use of clues that hint at future events. The very first sentence hints at Mrs. Mallard's ultimate fate. It is revealed that she has heart trouble and her sister is careful in breaking the news that Mrs. Mallard's husband has supposedly been killed in a railroad disaster. At the end of the story, she does indeed die of heart disease. I think all of you got the clear picture of symbols, themes and figure of speeches which I have used throughout the story. It's the time to discuss the questions relating this part. Which were the words whispered by her when she sat herself? How did Bentley Richard escape the railroad accident? What is the climax of the story of Anne R? Last question. Explain. She had died of heart diseases, of joy that kills. I'm sure you can easily find out the answers. We will start the new chapter in our next class. Take care and stay at home. Thank you.